this, which I probably will. Just going to grab the URL so that we can get going and talk markets.
Uni, what's up?
Legend, you could get it. You could apply. Use your real name.
I feel like I've applied years ago and nothing.
They opened it back up, I guess.
Okay.
They opened it back up, and I think Jack is watching. I think he was listening to our intro last week.
Must be.
Yeah, that was it. That was fucking it.
He was like, this Luke guy is bullish. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he's looking for. He's looking at the price levels. He's looking for his bullish, and he's getting you in.
I'm never going to get approved.
This guy can't wait to long XRP with the blue check.
Maybe he's an XRP. Maybe he's adding XRP functionality. Probably not, but
it's funny how Bitcoin maxi he is. I love it, but it's funny.
Well, they added NFTs though. Ethereum had their 140 NFT drop.
Yeah, they did.
Is that a Jack thing, or is that someone on his team thing? I don't know.
It's just Twitter moving around Jack. He was
Could be.
like, I've been overruled. They want to put the Ethereums out there.
It sounded like they didn't even want to list BTC, like the board didn't.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised to get anything.
Well, they're it makes sense. Like they don't want to list BTC, but they're okay listing Ethereum NFTs. I saw some NFT people making fun of them for their like the plushy Twitter bird one, and they were like something like $100 billion company, and they can't even loop the Twitter bird. It's like, okay, they really were serious about their loops on their NFTs. I thought their NFTs were actually cool though, but I think all the art based NFTs are kind of dumb. So
I mean, I could talk about that for ages, but
Did you just say NFTs are dumb? Whoa, dude.
I don't think NFTs are dumb at all.
Whoa.
The specific ones are dumb. Like some of them are, and I totally agree on that. Like if you're starting to print if you're a shitty third-rate artist and you do like NFTs.
A third-rate artist. Wow.
Probably not gonna.
Basically, 99% of artists.
Yep.
I mean, you go to Target, you can buy a lot of art you can hang on your wall for $10.
Yeah,
That's what most
I like
NFTs
about
should be.
NFTs is the spec. Like the spec for NFTs is very cool. The non-fungibility component basically means title, right? You can have a certificate of authenticity or title to any specific thing, and I think that is actually very cool from an application perspective. Whereas an ERC20 is interchangeable parts. Like any token is the same as any other token. Which is cool, but 721 is a very interesting token spec to me. That's what I think.
I agree.
That's what I think about NFTs. The art is just like a playground for playing with that spec. So there you go. There's our pre-show NFT thesis. Now let's get to the real freaking show. How about it? You ready to start?
I think NFTs with utility are game changing, but the art ones are silly.
There you go. There you go. That's all there is to it. Thanks for being here, y'all. We are gonna start the show. 3, 2,
Get it.
1. Hello and welcome to Weekly Open. I'm Brian, here with everybody. We'll get to them in just a second. First, I want to tell you about Blockfolio. Go to weeklyopen.com/Blockfolio. You can trade directly from one asset to the other. If you think Bitcoin's about to break out, you can buy it. If you don't, you can sell it, capitulate, take that money back to your bank or wherever you need it to go. It's a great app, mobile first, no fees, and the same portfolio tracking you've known and loved since 2014. Thanks to Blockfolio for being our partners. weeklyopen.com/Blockfolio. Gentlemen, how's it going? Luke, you're on top. How are you, buddy?
I feel good. I feel verified. I feel famous. I feel
heard.
feel very important.
More important than us plebeian non-verified Twitter users.
Look, I mean, you said it. Jack listens to the show and he is verifying people that are bullish. I was bullish last week. Price is the same level. It doesn't matter. I got verified. So
he did what he had to do. Josh, how are you, sir?
My account is 9 years older than Luke's. Still no blue check. I'm good.
Don, do they verify ducks?
I'm gonna try, I think, because I mean, a verified duck would be hilarious, right? So I mean,
This
just
duck
gonna try
is
it.
the real duck.
I thought I read that they were. I thought I read that they were allowing anonymous blue checks, but maybe not.
I am very thankful for it because, you know what? Fewer people will be scammed, and that's what's important because a lot of people want to be the real Luke Martin, but there's only one, and he has a blue check mark. Don, your screen is shared first. You're going to give me more gloom and doom. Oh, got rejected at resistance. What else are you going to tell me?
I mean, good news is we're still in this weekly kind of support area. Bad news is, I mean, we're kind of sliding down it. And what you usually want to be seeing is like support get hit and a strong bounce. What we're getting is support be hit and then just like nothing, which to me is more bearish than bullish. So like, I'm not treating this as higher time frame support anymore. And then the same thing on the daily, like any kind of support that you can find is just doing its job and support is barely holding on. So for me, it's kind of like, I don't want to be buying this anymore. Like I've tried buying 32, 33K so many times, sold it for a couple of percent every time, and not going to do it again. I'm just going to be waiting for this to actually play out. And so doom and gloom for me. I don't really see a good reason to play this range because I mean, I have better stuff to do with my time. So if this starts ranging in here, that's just, I mean, that's too boring even for me. Like I like the crab range stuff because this is all like, these are decent moves, right? You get like 25%, like 3 or 4 times. That's a really, really good trading range. Whereas this is like 3 to 4%. Your stop loss is like further away than your target. Not my kind of trading environment, at least for Bitcoin.
You want the crab to lift its claws and get to the top of the range.
Yeah, or just break down. I think that's more likely. But the thing is, like, I wouldn't want to be shorting into the support either, right? Like, even if I was still taking shorts, I wouldn't want to be shorting into this because, I mean, it's still support, but I mean, it just looks old. Like, I still think like a shakeout at least below these lows makes sense. And then maybe a return in the crab range. And then we can have some upside, right? Like this would be my most bullish kind of price action if we get it, because everyone has like a risk-defined setup there. We can all just get in it together and just play to the upside. Now we can also go just straight up, but for me, this seems unlikely. So that's kind of like, this is what I'm waiting for. And if I don't get it, I'm going to be buying into strength. That's kind of my view on it.
Don, if crypto ever goes to zero, you're a born Forex trader, so you'll always have a way to make it.
I'd hate to transition into it though. Like crypto is so much more fun. Like I traded before, I did Forex a little bit. I did like a bunch of other stuff before I went into crypto. And I don't know, it's just way less exciting.
Yeah, you have to do it with a lot of leverage because the natural moves are so small.
Yeah. And I mean, crypto is just so much more fun, I think.
But
I don't think it's going to zero though.
From a price action perspective though, I feel like your style just really lends itself towards that kind of like random walk, rangy stuff where people like me are begging for trends and you're just like, the trend shall be denied.
I mean, that's basically where my trading comes from, right? That's where I learned it. So that makes sense. But it's still like trending stuff is much more fun. But for me, it's like harder to trade. It's just, I'm just going to be sitting in position during like times like this where you have 25% ranges. I'm more than fine with taking a bunch of trades in there.
Yeah. Luke, you're bullish last week. Are you still bullish? What are your thoughts? Give me some hopium, please.
I mean, it felt good until Sunday?
Weekly slam that we got.
Yeah, I wasn't trading this weekend, but just checking prices every couple of hours. Just like, man, this is shaping up all right. And now we're still stuck at the mid range. So I mean, I don't know. Everything's going to follow Bitcoin. Like, it's nice to at least see the DeFi is bouncing when Bitcoin and everything else bounces, but it's like everything is still going to be held by Bitcoin. So unless Bitcoin clears mid range or top of the range, we're going to see this roller coaster. If people say we go to zero, people say we go to all-time highs.
I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but the amount of volume that came in with like an hour and a half or so left in the weekly candle, I think somebody was motivated to prevent that candle from being pretty. They came in hot selling the coins, and there was no news, no nothing. It was pure, to me, like someone wanting to paint. And they did it. They prevented the weekly from being like particularly nice and melted off the weekend. Weekends are fake as usual, I guess, but I found that pretty interesting. I don't know what happened to open interest during that time. Did anybody follow open interest over the weekend and how it's shaped up now?
I actually didn't follow it at all because, I mean, I was just doing other stuff. But with regards to what you just mentioned, I've actually seen the same thing happen. And I've learned to not counter trade it because this candle close on the monthly here. I don't know if you guys remember, like on the 1st of March.
Yeah.
That was the exact same way. You can see where that came from, right? That's like literally the bottom of the range, the 6K range. And we closed exactly there, and someone smashed buys into that to close it nicely. And then it immediately like rallied like stupid. Like for me, like whenever I see that, and I mean, I had the same feeling back then. I just don't counter trade it because I'm like, okay, this guy has more money than I do.
Yeah, they can push Bitcoin around to their desire. So
yeah,
I don't know if I want to fade them. Yeah. Josh, how are you feeling, buddy? Did you make any mid-time frame adjustments?
Yeah, so I've been watching the 8 hour. On Friday, we were talking about the mean reversion thing.
Yeah.
And this should mean revert. And everybody's kind of waiting on that. Everybody's feeling the bull div, essentially. There's just a growing bullish divergence on the daily as we sort of creep lower and lower and lower. The cloud is telling you this should mean revert to 44. You can cheat it by watching the 8 hour, which you'll see as a Kumo breakout, blah, blah, blah. But until it actually happens, you can't like do anything like in a big way that I feel. You can be long and be a hero and hope that it goes up. But I think the reality is until it's above 35.5, like it could be another week of sideways, basically. Like the cloud is telling me the 12th is probably a good time to like start looking at this seriously again. So if we're sideways by the 12th, I think I get more bullish. But right now it's just kind of like, eh. And then ETH also needs to be above 23 by the 12th.
I actually thought ETH had a pretty constructive set of dailies. From a trend perspective, at least, it started to show hints of reversal. We're retracing a daily candle today, but I could imagine a wick as low as like 2100 though, and kind of confirm the prior support. And if it gets a nice reaction off of that, I would still not be bearish. But I only anticipate it has like strong potential for upside if Bitcoin's not dying, you know, like if Bitcoin is like really nuking, like Don showed, where it goes well, like below the yearly open again, all that stuff. But if Bitcoin just makes this like devastatingly sideways, which it could do for another like several weeks, then I think that could actually give Ethereum time to run. But it would probably still be indicative, as Don has talked about before, of if Bitcoin just is relentlessly sideways and all the liquidity goes to alts during that time, then Bitcoin's most likely avenue after that is down before up. I don't disregard that wisdom at this juncture.
Who was bullish on ETH last week? I was surprised because I kind of said the ETH BTC chart looked ugly, especially as we got closer to 0.07, 0.08. And as you were saying, Ledge, like I agree on the dollar pair. I think it looks great. It looks that like reclaim of 2000.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's been much stronger about kind of hinting reversals. Whether you're looking at diagonals, moving averages, kind of key horizontal levels. I bet the volume profile checks out as well. Yeah, it bounced off this kind of concentration point around 1800 strongly, which is what you want to see. So ETH feels like a more constructive recovery to me, whereas Bitcoin just is still like it just freaking loves to crab in here in the low 30Ks, finding buyers in the 20s, finding sellers in the 40s. It's a really gigantic and frustrating range. To be frank.
ETH's hash rate looks as though it's bottomed. BTC's has as well, relatively.
Yeah.
But ETH has had stronger on-chain metrics than BTC over the past week.
And
ETH almost like broke up again in on-chain metrics, which is crazy to think. Gas prices were up a little bit over the weekend. Things were looking pretty good.
dude, gas was like 4 or 5 gwei or something. Like I made a trade for like $6 this weekend. And it was not for an insignificant amount of money. It's the type of thing where I've also paid like $200, you know, in the past. Like so gas may have been up a bit, but that means like for maybe an hour it got above 10 gwei or something, and it's just stunning how little interest there is. And I actually kind of think it was a bit of bottomy things. Like DeFi stuff looks freaking fantastic for the mean reversion trade. To me, like I've had some of my most profitable trades over the past couple of weeks as I've played this reflexivity, basically assuming ETH bottomed and then everything else got smoked. In fact, when I look at it relative to these volume profiles, it's even more obvious. Like they nuked right through like where they had previously consolidated. This was the compound trade that I've talked about before. I talked about it on Don and Cred's podcast. Went below 200. I got in the 220s. That sucker went to 450 this weekend. Reclaimed the 200-day moving average, fully filled the gap. I sold it in the 430s, but I still am maintaining exposure in DeFi. I rotated a bunch of it to synthetics, which almost identical across that volume profile, which basically just means it went back to its 2020 prices, you know, and now it has this like vacuum of space. And I just with ETH looking okay, if Bitcoin will continue to crab, then I like this trade, and the upside's been tremendous so far. But I don't know, like everybody's bearish, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go trade these DeFi coins that got absolutely massacred. And even if it's a bearish bounce, it's a bearish bounce I like. Anybody else participating in any of this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I started doing more on the DeFi account in Enzyme over the weekend, and just adding more and more. I'm still getting like over 10% yield on Balancer for some reason. No idea why, on Aave. So I doubled that bag. I bought a few other things, but yeah,
Aave is
things
one that I've held. I forgot about that one because Aave's been more of a steady grind up, but like synthetics and comp and a couple others, like they'll just have these days that are like plus 20%. It's just crazy because they were so sold off, you know, and they all have actually pretty good bullish news fundamentally coming out. So that's a nice lift. The reflexivity trade, I don't know that I'd like say, oh yeah, go buy comp at 450. You know, like for continuation of that, it's going to go to all-time highs, but you don't have to. You just play the rotation of it.
Well, what did I say? I've been saying, like anything that's pulled back to its yearly open, SNX is one, comp I think is one, Balancer was one. These are all things that are looking bad enough to get back into. Right. Anything that hasn't done that yet is a bit more wishy-washy. But the stuff that's sold off just so hard, sure, why not take a stab, right? It's like it's retraced the entire 6 months, right? 7 months.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
So go ahead,
Ledge. I was going to say another way to think about that, even longer ago than just the early open this year, like a lot of these DeFi bags are almost at where they were 12 months ago. So like the cycle top from August or last DeFi summer. Yeah. And it's just the thought of like, you know, does DeFi today have a greater chance of surviving and thriving and growing and getting allocations than it did 12 months ago? And I think that answer is yes. Like there's a lot of coins only up 20 or 30% from where they were a full year ago. Like Rune obviously still up 7x, YFI is probably up 4x, but past that, there's a lot of stuff that's up like 50%, 30%. I think that's probably a mispricing. Short term, maybe still pain, but I like it.
Uni is still up 320% from its yearly open.
There's
so
a few.
That one's a bit problematic for sure. But
Sushi's another one that I kind of expected more from, and I've not gotten it so far. I think
you're seeing the emission curve on Sushi play out.
Yeah, it had a very similar setup, but it hasn't seen as much of that bullish response. And the ones that got crushed more are feeling the bounces better. So it's definitely not been across the board, which I usually say I like, but if you get it wrong, then it sucks. Like, so I've had some sushi exposure, so it's been a mixed bag. It's not like it's like died more. It's just not gotten as positive a response as Aave, synthetics, Compound's been the clear winner. Like, there's been days where Compound's just chatting while everything else is red. You know, that's like SNX is doing it today and yesterday. Yesterday everything was green, but today everything's red. Synthetics is up 10%. That's what I want to see, because if I feel like the rest is bottomed, I'm willing to add even if it's up, because I think it's going to have that continuation.
Comp with that sweet 4%, attracting a lot of dollars.
Dude, I think that was legitimately important, though. I
agree.
I immediately sent it to 2 in real life friends who are interested in crypto and like trying to figure out how can they or their companies find exposure. And I was like, this is 4% on dollars. A lot of companies freaking love that, have their eyes on crypto, and they say, shoot, this takes out all the like hard crap, but I get to yield farm or whatever for 4%. And I think it's actually pretty bullish. If I could, like, if you hit your retirement number and then you just say, I'm going to give Compound all my money and make 4% off of it, then I'd do it. You know?
You would give them all your money?
No, not from but like in a theoretical sense, if you could earn 4%, like that's pretty compelling, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
I think it has a place.
Crazy.
It has a place in a broad strategy for sure. Definitely.
If it was insured, or if I could insure it, then I might give them all my money.
Well, there's BlockFi, there's Coinbase. Everybody's doing that.
Yeah,
percentage stuff now.
There's places to earn multiple, pretty decent dollar yield. You can lend on exchanges. You can do all kinds of stuff. So I just, but that's the first one where it's like white glove DeFi, and I think they're going to be rewarded in their TVL and everything.
Yep.
Aave announced an Aave Pro pool. Have you guys read about that?
I only saw the picture that Stoney tweeted of all the adults in the like little kiddie pool.
I saw memes. I didn't see anything else.
Well, it's going to be KYC.
Josh.
Well, it's going to be KYC'd, which
gotcha
is good and bad. You know, is it really DeFi if it's KYC'd? If it's KYC'd, that means more money. That's what the kiddie pool reference is telling us. And it was the same thing with DEXs. It's the same thing when ZRX announced some sort of like whitelisting of addresses and stuff. I think it's great for like everything that's involved with, but it's not necessarily like DeFi true and true. If there's KYC AML involved, but if there is, like that's the real world.
It depends what you consider DeFi. Like custody is one thing, anonymity is another, privacy is another. DeFi carries some of these things and not others. I don't know. It depends on how you look at it.
So it's using the DeFi backend, and then the front end is what's KYC'd, right? So it's like it is using DeFi. It's just like to sign up, you are still going the traditional route, right?
Yeah, but it's usually siloed if that's the case. So people who aren't KYC'd can't participate. Which
the pool itself is siloed.
Yeah, I mean that's real life, so I understand it. But it's not where we are now with DeFi as far as everyone being able to do whatever they want, whenever they want.
I think the hybrid models are an inevitable future. And I think it's okay to experiment with them. You know, it makes some things much easier for participants who like, they say, hey, we have to have access to like who our counterparties are. So they need to be able to like say, here's who's managing this. This is a KYC pool. Here's where you go if someone needs verification of what we did with these dollars. Like they just need that for the regulations in their country or whatever. So of course,
like if you look at Ren versus Wrapped BTC and you see the issuance, like it's very clear that the KYC stuff has a ton more TVL attached to it because that's where the big boys have to go. They can't go to this.
Wrapped BTC is the KYC version?
Correct, yeah.
Gotcha.
Whenever you see like so-and-so minted, it's usually Alameda, they have to, all that's KYC. Versus Ren, where you could just go through a dark pool and like, I don't know, it's not necessarily legal, but you can do it, at least in the United States.
Dude, Ren looks so bad.
Yeah.
Relative to ETH. This is the type where it should have gotten a huge bounce, right? Off of this type of move down, and it just didn't. It just like It's back in.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, look at the off log.
Don't even do that to me. That looks horrible. I don't hold any, but that's just tough to look at.
Yeah, it's just consolidating at the lows. That's kind of nasty. So
kind of looks like Bitcoin to me.
Right now or in the future?
I mean, look at that without like on the high time frames. It just looks like head and shoulders.
Don.
Yeah.
Don thinks we're going to 24. I know it.
I mean,
if we break down, yeah, we've been saying that for weeks. If we break down, we're going in the 20s. Easy. End of story. People don't want to hear it, but it's true. That's why the meter version needs to work, or else we're in deep doo-doo real quick.
Nothing. How many lines do I have to draw on Wi-Fi looking for support? Like, is any chart more of a random walk of trash than Wi-Fi has been? Like, it's the widest range possible, but good Lord, like the first trend breakout it absolutely turbo nuked from, and then just started the slow trend the opposite direction.
Yeah, I mean, Wi-Fi is just being nice to me because I sold, I bought the bottom or bottom-ish anyway, and I sold into the rally like in the halfway point, and now it just came back on the Bitcoin pair completely. Yeah. It's just because like every time I sell something and it keeps on going up, I get angry. Do you have the same thing? Is it just me, or is it just like I'm like the moment I start selling this, I start rooting against it? Maybe that's why I'm so bearish on Bitcoin now. I don't know.
Because you're not a bag holder.
Yeah, I'm not a bag holder right now. The moment I start buying again, I get bullish.
Are you,
and then
with that mentality, are you able to do tranches of anything, or do you just basically have to be in or out? Like, can you DCA? Is it physically within your capacity as a human?
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly joking. Like, I'm not I'm not like super bearish when I'm not in it. It's just this one time kind of feeling where you're like, fuck, I sold this and it keeps on going up. But no, I can like DCA in. I rarely do it, like other than like just trying to get in and out. Like I'm not sitting there being like, okay, I'm going to put in X amount every week just because I think I'm going to be able, if I do it manually and if I pick my entries, I think I'm going to get a better one. But for most people, I think it's actually better to just buy in continuously. But I don't do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Looking at Bitcoin, these real quick again, I'm looking at like super low time frames right now. That's okay. Today's Monday. You have all week to stare at these charts. This is classic, right? Like the boom, the crappy pop up and then nuke. Honestly, I should have risked off more here just as I saw it, but I was like, I'm still sitting in spot on that stuff, and my complacency of my other bags pumping prevented me from letting it go.
Gets you every time, doesn't it?
Yeah. But as I look at this, like these consolidations are quicker right now, but the dumps are a little smaller too. So I don't know. Just looking at this kind of intraday type of stuff that doesn't look good or bad to me. It just looks like noise.
Yeah,
I could easily see this consolidating in the 33s and kind of churning back up and being a big bag of nothing. I just feel like I need to look for stuff in other arenas. What do y'all think?
I mean, it's clearly been working for you, right? I mean, like, gotta give props where props are due. Like, you've been crushing it in the last week, so why not continue doing that until it stops working?
Just assuming it's noise.
Ledger, I'm curious, do you do more low time frame stuff when we're in a range? Like for me, if Bitcoin's ranging, and I know that momentum is just going to fall all the time, like low time frame, I love doing that during a trend, because when things break out, they just break out. You can take that 30-minute, 2-hour trade. Like in a range, I'm just so less incentivized to even look. I mean, I still look at the 1 minute, but like I shouldn't, because I just don't even trade it. Do you do as much low time frame trading in a range as you do when we're breaking out?
No. What I typically look for, and I'll show, like this did trigger my concerns yesterday, is when you have kind of this choppy stuff that has like a breakout, and then ugly consolidation moves again. It's fine if it gets 2, 3, 4 candles. When the first candle gets fully engulfed, that freaks me out. And that shows it on the hourly, but it was actually pretty visible as like, this was someone's liquidity here. And then this sell comes in here with a lot. And that to me was like that trend was done. You know, the trend of the weekend was done by the time it hit here, because throughout the rest of it, it was much more constructive. And even when someone tried to push it down, it immediately got pulled back up when you're looking at these low time frames. So this was kind of a signal, if I were smarter, to say like, all right, I'm just going to like go sit on the sidelines right now. And then when this feels done, I'm going to buy back some of these altcoins. So currently we might actually be on the precipice of the exact opposite, right? So you have this ugly little flag up, and then it starts to get bought up. If you get some kind of solid 30-minute candle or something where it clears back up, it might be indicative that whoever was our seller here got tired, and you have a chance to, you know, go back 34, 35. And it's not so important for trading Bitcoin. I don't give a crap about trading Bitcoin there, but I might go catch some of these things that are down on the day outside of that. And this is how I at least look at these. So if I can find comp as my example, so it's down 4%, 5% today. But like go even to a 30-minute trend, this just looks like normal, like after a up move type of consolidation. This is in a very nice uptrend, like every time frame. And then when you go to daily, it's right on top of the 200-day moving average. So sure, I might be able to, if I feel like Bitcoin's bottomed, I might be able to like get a mid or low time frame consolidation and look for another kind of 10% move in comp, or maybe it's going to go to $500 or 600 to kind of really blast through. And I'll seek those trades wherever they may exist. The best ones though are these, right, where it's like really, really moving fast. It's green throughout the day while Bitcoin's dumping. If Bitcoin's done dumping, I think synthetics is going to go to like 10 plus in the next 24 hours. So that's how I use those low time frames, and I'm looking for where that liquidity really failed, which Don still has it on his chart, and you just saw that happen yesterday in that hourly candle that you're looking at. Does that make sense? Was that too convoluted?
No, it makes sense.
And this is obviously a spot strategy, right? Like I guess if I was a Bitcoin margin trader, I could have shorted that engulfing candle or something, but that's not really the way I was playing it.
Yep. I just want to be out of the range.
I don't think there's much of a need to do it anyway. Like the whole leverage stuff. I mean, a lot of people get into this market and then they start trading it, and then they see people have like these huge balances, and they start leveraging to kind of reach that too. And all it does for them is basically getting them fucked. Like the best advice I think anyone can give any new entrant into crypto is stay away from leverage, because like leverage in itself isn't the problem, right? The problem is that everyone, or like almost everyone, uses it wrongly. And it's obvious, like that's just how humans work, right? You just get greedier and greedier. And if you're new to something and you see like wins come in or whatever, getting trapped in that mindset, in like a gambling kind of mindset, just going to get you wrecked.
You know, my favorite way to use leverage is not to even really to say like, here's this exact setup on a major I'm looking for. But if I'm generally bullish on a major, like take ETH, what we were talking about earlier, with, you know, it looks overall pretty constructive, but I say, okay, I want to go buy something else. So I buy some synthetics or something. And if I'm wrong on synthetics outperforming, but I'm right on bullishness overall, I could be, say, like 2x levered on Ethereum and essentially make up for the exposure that I'm losing to Ethereum by buying synthetics, you know? So I'm essentially able to maintain my Ethereum exposure. So if Ethereum outperforms and I'm confident in that particular trend, but I also have the upside aspects of synthetics or whatever else that I think will go up. But if I'm wrong about synthetics outperforming ETH, I'm still getting the upside of ETH because of that margin. And that theoretically you would margin ETH to the same degree that you're spot long in all like synthetics. That's like a long only version of a hedge though, right? Where you're just maintaining your exposure to the underlying while you still trade the derivative altcoin. And that's something you would do on low margin, where you would only be buying an altcoin with, say, 30% of your typical ETH holdings or something like that, so that you can maintain very low margin and still maintain the exposure. This is not a great environment even to do that, though, because if it nukes, then you're basically long everything, and everything gets nuked, right?
Yep.
But if you're confident in the trend, that's a pretty reasonable way to maintain your exposure to the underlying and get exposure to the altcoin.
Yeah, if I had to quantify or like describe my favorite kind of way to use leverage, it's to long one thing and short another. Pretty similar, but just like if you want to be neutral and you're like, okay, ETH is going to outperform Litecoin, for example, which has been like the easiest trade of all time, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious that ETH, or like for most of this year, it's been obvious. And you could have been basically crypto, like you could have been flat crypto in general by longing ETH once and shorting Litecoin on the other end of that, and you would have made a killing, right? Off of basically not having any crypto exposure, like net crypto exposure, because what you're doing is basically you short the same amount of Litecoin that you long ETH, and you would have won on both legs. Actually, I think Litecoin, is it up year to date? I don't even know.
I don't know. It got so nuked off the all-time high price expiration. It's so bad.
Yeah, I mean, like on the Bitcoin pair, 100%, right? Litecoin's down this year, and then you look at ETH, and that's up 160%, right? So you win on both ends of that trade. And that's my favorite way to kind of use leverage. But I think like barely anyone does that. People use leverage to kind of gamble on direction instead of using it to decrease counterparty risk, take like more exotic trades, kind of not have to have like a lot of money on an exchange. That kind of stuff's much better use for leverage. But yeah, barely gets talked about.
I mean, Doge has got to be one of the best examples of that, right? I feel like I should be short Doge right this moment. It looks absolutely atrocious versus the dollar. If this stuff breaks down, it's going to get nuked. Versus Bitcoin, it's like we've talked about recently. It's one of the ugliest charts I've ever seen. If this doesn't go back sub 400 sats, freaking Elon can liquidate me, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, 100% agree. Like, have you guys seen the recent Twitter action from Elon? Like, he's been tweeting a lot about Doge, and I've not marked like when he's been tweeting about Doge.
Less and less effect.
Yeah, I mean, it's doing nothing. Like, it's immediately sold into, and that's been the case for the last. Like, those were two tweets of Musk in quick succession, got dumped immediately into, and then he tweeted about it again in here, got immediately dumped into, and I mean, this entire range basically has been where he's tweeting, and then it goes up, and then it gets dumped into, right? So you kind of see where this is going. I'd be very surprised if Doge is going to be up in the next till the end of the year anyway, if not in the next year or two.
I have an interesting question then based on that. If the market returns, do you think there's a higher likelihood that Bitcoin hits its all-time high or that Doge hits its all-time high first? The reason I'm asking, I'm having on that guy that, what's his name? The Doge. Yeah. Dogecoin's first millionaire, whatever he claims. Kind of a fascinating story. Well, it's going to be interesting. He's still holding his Dogecoin. I want to hear what you guys think. If the market returns, if we go full bull mode, double bubble, higher chance that Bitcoin.
We already double bubbled. We quadruple bubbled.
Calling himself Doge's first millionaire is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So many people became Doge millionaires.
Sure there's a lot of millionaires, but I think, I don't know. I have to ask him how the hell he did it. But seriously, does Doge hit its all-time high or Bitcoin first if the market returns?
Bitcoin.
Has to be, right?
Not even close.
Yeah. I mean, I take a bet on that. It's pretty, to me, like if Bitcoin rallies out of this, right, it's going to suck out the liquidity out of your coins.
And that's what would be bullish. The end of that rotation trade, the end of the reflexivity trade, and liquidity goes to Bitcoin because everybody is consensual in believing that the Bitcoin trend has returned. That is the most bullish possible thing that could happen. And Doge BTC gets absolutely turbo nuked during that.
I agree. I mean, I think he's going to lose it all. He didn't even buy the bottom or anything. He bought like into the middle
like
of the rally
or something.
I'm not even sure if it was that high. Like, I think he bought like, but I don't know. Like, I never listened to those guys.
So yeah, he said 4 cents.
He's
bought
a
it
full
very
blown.
Oh yeah, but like, I mean, that's still far off. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he just gave it all back. I would be surprised if Doge didn't go back to those prices. So
I think it's
full blown
destined.
community member.
Yeah, 100 sats. 100 sats is the new 20 sats. That's my thesis until proven wrong. It's going all the way back to 100 sats at bare minimum, which would be that'd be like retesting the lifetime breakout range on a sats basis.
Yep.
All right, Smash in the chat asked us to talk about Legacy. This is the only chart that I can look at in Legacy. Completely obscene. Qs broke vertically out of like a wedge-ish diagonal, basically just running hot as crap. And the only thing that stops that, in my mind, is this Delta variant news coming out about COVID stuff. And I don't even know how long that would be bearish, because you know how they like to spin things and be like, oh yeah, that means more money going in the system, more stimulus, number go up.
So stupid.
Yeah. But there was a headline this weekend, and I just am curious how that's going to affect it on the futures open, which was about the Delta variant or the vaccine being reduced in efficacy in Ireland or somewhere to like 60% from 95%. That's legitimately very bad news. So if we get into this thing of like people need boosters and all this stuff, and the Delta variant is as bad as regular COVID, like you can imagine some of those headlines that would pop up that could make this like a pop and drop. But on its face, I don't know, man. SPY's up 102% off the COVID bottoms, and it's breaking up in what looks like a blow off top, but Legacy likes to look like a blow off top and then just consolidate for months and then go up again. How are you supposed to bet against that?
Can I put on my biotech hat for a minute?
Put on your biotech hat.
Okay, so the thing with vaccines, people don't realize the biggest thing isn't necessarily full prevention. It's preventing you from getting hospitalized and dying. That's really the big thing. You know, people get flu after getting the vaccine all the time. What they don't usually get when they get the flu when they're vaccinated is a massive issues with immune response or in the hospital, blah, blah, blah. You see this all the time. So I'm not like spinning the vaccine saying they started to say it was fine. Now it's 64% instead of 94%. Like the numbers we need to know is what is the hospitalization rate post-vaccination, regardless of whether or not you get it. Is getting it and passing it to people bad? Yes. Like that's awful, horrible. There's going to be consequences with that, societal, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I think the big fear with Corona was, initially at least, like we don't know what this is. We don't know how to treat it. We don't know
And the big
if it's
goal
going to kill you.
The big goal was flatten the curve, and then honestly they moved the goalpost, right? It went from flatten the curve to like zero the curve. No opening,
right. So
opening back until it's no cases.
So I'm super hesitant to look at this stuff that just came out, and like, yeah, with the Delta variant, it makes sense that it's less effective, blah, 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 blah. But what we need to see is hospitalization rates. That's what we need to see.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I look at that stock chart and I start thinking that stocks like the coronavirus. I mean, they're going straight up. I don't know. I'm dead serious.
Anything that sends more money into the system sends stocks up.
Yeah. So
hilarious.
Well, Singapore just said they're going to stop counting cases altogether. They're the first country to do that. I don't know if that's premature or not, but it is what it is.
One other thing, I got the Dixie up here. You could make an argument that it's still very bullish, but it looks like sideways only to me. Like it could go tag that 200-day, which would basically mean that S&P and Q pump just goes turbo. Or it could, if that news is really bad, sure, it goes back to 93. It just, I don't know, it looks like trash sideways. One other thing I wanted to look at, I would call this kind of a hint, right? Is that Amazon has this crazy long consolidation. Amazon is arguably at a value based on how it's traded all year since August of 2020. Yet they're making more and more money hand over fist. So if you're going to be bearish, you have to look for a pop and drop or something on Amazon, because Amazon's 10% of the NASDAQ or something like that. It can all by itself start to just drag everything if it breaks up. If it gets a proper breakup, Amazon, to me, looks like it's going 4,000, maybe even 5,000, which would be hyper moon for the NASDAQ, and honestly good for Bitcoin. If we get a pop and drop on Amazon, I'll be very concerned about legacy markets and very concerned about crypto. This is a very weird, but my North Star of where we're going.
And we're trading the wrong scams, aren't we?
I mean,
Looking at this,
I'm starting to think the same thing.
Look how good this Amazon chart looks, right?
Yeah, what the hell are we doing looking at Bitcoin?
We need Sam. Are you listening?
Sam.
List Amazon.
I mean, the thing is, right? Like, it's really, really weird how weak crypto has been during a time where the traditional markets are pushing all-time highs, right? I mean, you would expect, like, with the entire narrative and with the backdrop, that crypto goes up, right? Like, I mean, you look at the S&P, right? Look at this. What's this?
That's up on.
I mean, yeah, that's up only, and not only that, but it's been going up for, like, I mean, it's had its breakout like more than a week ago, broke new highs, and then you compare that to Bitcoin, which is slumping downwards, right? You can even see the direction where this is slumping into, like, where this is going, right? And I mean, if we're in the boat that we say, okay, if the S&P shows weakness, we're gonna get fucked in crypto land. Then you would at least expect crypto to go up when the S&P goes up, or like the Qs go up, but that's not been the case, right? We've been like showing incredible weakness actually in comparison to the traditional markets.
Do you want to see one of the most incredible charts in all markets?
Real quick, let me just say that Google all-time high today, Microsoft all-time high today, NVIDIA all-time high today.
Those never really consolidated though. They just like went up. But the fact that Amazon consolidated so strongly gives Amazon a lot more upside. Like, it's not like could reverse anytime.
You know what needs to happen? We need to rename Bitcoin to tech. People said it's not tech, it's a currency. It has to become tech. We got to start saying that.
That's why Ethereum's going to go up while Bitcoin goes sideways.
I agree with that narrative. I'm on board.
All right. So this is the monthly oil chart going back to this one only goes back to the early 2000s, but you know, I don't know if when y'all were kids, you remember like the craziness that oil went through on these huge pop and drops. And when you remember oil or gas being like $3.50 and then going to $1 and all that stuff. I've had this $75 line on my chart for years because it's been kind of this inflection point at times. Like, it certainly breaks it up or down, but it seems like it's kind of the verge of insanity to the upside. Like when people just like despair about oil and the impact at the pump and all that. Got rejected by it in 2018 when a lot of people were calling for $100 oil. Went to zero, literally. And then now it's back at 75. The 200-month moving average is literally a straight line right at $70. Oil could be making a push for $100 plus here, and I find that really fascinating. I'm going to see if I can find another WTI chart.
We're burning supply. We're burning supply. It's bullish.
That looks like Bitcoin did before it like went from 10K to 60K, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying this is going to repeat it, but it does look similar. Crazy.
They said that.
So here's where whatever the TVC, when oil it literally went to zero there. I don't know what Forex exchange this is, but yeah. I mean, this looks nuts.
They said it travels back to it's above pre-corona levels already. So yeah, if you're looking for some metric on oil, there you go.
And I just bring up oil because like you these commodities are not all acting the same. You know, they're spinning their own narratives. Copper is a fascinating one. Copper is going to be in huge like secular demand due to all kinds of stuff, but in particular electronics and electric cars. A lot of people are very bullish on the copper trade long term because of how much is required in electric cars. So commodities, I mean, they're really not overly letting up. They still look quite strong. If you look at gold on a monthly, we've talked about that. It looks, I mean, it's kind of absurd that it's done what it's done on this monthly chart in the environment. Like, it should have just turbo mooned. But it got hindered by rates. Screw you and Silica. You think I don't know anything about macro? Bite me. You took context of one tweet and acted like I knew nothing. Go screw yourself.
Yeah. So Ledger, are you saying
there?
For your trade idea this week, you're saying I should stop looking at all these coins and just start longing tech scams? Is that the way to do it? Commodities and tech scams.
It's weird. Well, it's honestly the relationship of commodities and tech all kind of looking bullish is, I think the charts are cleaner. Let's put it that way in legacy at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I pull that chart up and instantly, I see it, I know what to do. Whereas these crypto charts, not so much. Definitely not so much.
Yeah.
Someone said, or someone tweeted about this, and I have no idea when it actually is going to be, but like someone commented on Robinhood's IPO being the top of the market, or like going to be. I didn't even know they were IPOing, but
yeah,
what do you guys think about that?
Meme tweeted that, and they said like it'll be the top of meme stocks, and then my buddy Johnny, he struck meme and just was like all stocks. If it's the same as the Coinbase narrative, I don't know. I love narratives like that. Why not make it the top? Dump it.
When is it gonna be?
It's pretty soon. I think it's September.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
All right, so we have one more month.
One more month before everything rug pulls.
The thing is, the legacy won't rug for very long until entities step in, right?
Yeah.
Lunch protection.
Yeah.
Such a scam, really. Like, we don't get that on Bitcoin. We don't get that in coin land.
Hey man, this is the whole this is the fiat.
Dom, what do you mean? You like fiat when shit goes down? Yeah. What are you talking about? It's your dream.
I mean, if I knew that there was plunge protection, I would just long only. It's just like,
Don, this is the argument for fiat. This is the fiat maxis. They have levers they can pull. The fixed supply gold bugs and Bitcoin maxis, they don't want the levers. They want the system to play out as it's meant to play out. You're a Keynesian or something over here.
Keynesian. Yeah. Before we go, people keep asking us about GBTC stuff. Do you guys have any comments on that one way or the other? I mean, no matter what people say, unlocks are not bullish. So sorry anybody retweeting somebody's hopium about unlocks absorbing some garbage, blah, blah, blah. It's just not bullish.
Aren't they done basically? Or like mostly done anyway?
One more wave.
No, they're definitely not done.
Yeah, not done, but like mostly done anyway.
But they're not done. You can say they're mostly done, but they're also not done.
Mid-July is another wave that's actually like notable. And then I think after that, all the sizes will be relatively small to what we've had.
And the premium's going down, right? I mean, it's been negative 20, and I haven't checked in like a week or so.
It's a little better than that, yeah.
Does anyone have it right now?
Lynn Alden,
yeah, it's negative 8.
And Lynn Alden is great, by the way, for macro stuff.
Yes.
She had a thing, I think it was with Peter McCormack's podcast. She goes on there every now and then. And she talked about how structured product ETFs, because of the fees and then like some of the just elements of the way they're put together, these typically carry a discount. It is not weird for GBTC to trade at, say, a 6 to 8% discount. That's not weird, because the 2% fee plus some of the other elements of the way it's constructed would be normal. Would be normal if you otherwise have access to that product from like pretty much all account types. So as there's speculation that an ETF is inevitable at some point that can be easily arbed, then the fee mechanisms and other stuff with GBTC makes it reasonable to carry the discount that it carries. What's weird is for it to carry a large premium. The fact that it was just a money-making trade for so long just was great for the people that could manage that trade. But that was the weird thing. Being at an 8% discount is not a weird thing for a structured product. And that's what a lot of people get confused. They act like an 8% discount is so bearish for Bitcoin. It basically just means Bitcoin is more accessible in other ways for people. And anyway, she gave a very good rundown of why that's the case. And it's just worth remembering that the fact that it carries discount is not like some uber bear thing. It just means that free money trade is gone, and that was not an insignificant reason for Bitcoin to go up at the time because it created inherent demand.
I think the premium versus discount is a good gauge for sentiment and legacy, just like watching the MSTR chart. Like that's a great sentiment gauge for legacy's appetite for crypto.
Now,
that's kind of what I used it for as well. It just makes sense, right?
I think that trade could persist with Ethereum as an example, because I don't think an Ethereum ETF is due near in the time frame that the Bitcoin one is due. And also the additional products of access are not as good. So whenever I've wanted to long GBTC, I've actually longed ETH, especially when the discount got bigger, because that discount closes quicker.
What's the discount now there? Because I think it's on
it was as low as like 2 or 3% recently. I don't know what it is right this moment. So there's a hot tip for you.
Coming in Monday morning.
Yeah, if ETH ever gets like 15 to 20% discounted, to me that's basically just an automatic buy.
I like it. I mean, if I think that is bottom on top. Yeah. That's like I've been talking about the GBTC trade as well for a while, where I was like, if it's a 20% discount and I think Bitcoin has bottomed, I mean, I'm down to buy that because it seems pretty cheap to me. But the problem is, I mean,
it doesn't look like a bottom, but if it is, then it's probably the bottom here, right? Like,
that is true. Yeah.
The risk reward is pretty fantastic at this moment. Although Don, you've talked about this. If it bottoms here, the upside is probably not as good, right? Like if this gets to mid 40s, people are gonna be like, all right, I'm out. Whereas like it could feel like a generational bottom if it goes to like 24, you know?
Yep. That's kind of what I'm hoping for anyway. Because like the thing is, if you go back into like the mid 40s, I mean, we're all like everyone, even the most bullish people are gonna be like, okay, maybe I'm gonna risk off
profit.
and see if this is like a complacency bounce. And I could, like, with the market being as weak as it has been, I could see that just materializing itself just because enough people believe in it. And then we go back down and then the chart will look really, really bad, right? This breakdown into move up, that will look really bullish. Break up into breakdown, like that would look really, really bearish. And it's like, yeah, where does this go next? Because the support's been tested so many times. Then it has to kind of break down, and given you've trapped so many people in position up here, it would have to break down lower, I think. So if you want to have like the less painful trade, I think lower.
Don wants bullish dumping. There's your what you're looking for this week. Luke, what do you get this week?
You know, I don't want anything. I'm not going to ask anything from the market. We're going to be stuck in this range maybe for a while. Someone asked in the chat, they said, I'm new here. Has Bitcoin ever been in a range this long? Last time we were in a range this long was exactly a year ago. We were stuck between 8K and 10K, and I think it lasted for a full 90 days. So we're on day 47. Yeah, right there. You have it highlighted, like May towards the end of July. Yeah. So we're on day 47 right now.
That was that was the second most bullish I've ever been in Bitcoin is when that happened.
Yeah. So we're on day 47. Okay. Could go longer. Maybe we break out this week. Maybe we break down this week. But I think you need to be prepared for us to stay in a range for an even longer period of time. That's all I'm watching. Can we get out of the range? Because if we're not, I mean, what am I really going to do? I just don't like to take low time frame trades. I really don't even like to trade. Give me the easy market again.
Josh, what are you watching?
That's what I want.
My favorite sideways indicator is the Bollinger Bands.
Yeah,
Mr. John Bollinger. And they are not scissoring. That's a bad word. They're clamping. I don't know. They're tightening. They're tightening. There you go. So if we can continue to tighten and we see a B-band breakout along with the cloud stuff, ideally to the upside, but if not, that's fine. But that's something to watch. If you just wake up every day, check the Bollinger Bands on BTC. If they're still inside, then you do nothing. If they start to break up or down, then you start to take action. Currently, it's basically kind of hugging the 20, but below the 20 SMA. So it's projecting a breakdown, but it could tighten for much longer.
All right, I'm going to give a couple of parallels on BTC. This is a non-answer, but I think we're either here or here. I don't know which. I think sentiment-wise, we're actually here, except for this was much less time. It felt like a long time back then. I remember very vividly being here. If we're here, it's kind of this equal lows concept like we've already talked about, and we already had our version of like super capitulation. If we're here, we're in for a bad time. We could totally be here, but alts were like mooning here back then, so I don't think we're here. I lean towards being here. We're at one of these two. We're going to get a big break here soon, as Josh just hinted with Bollinger Bands. I think we're here. I'm going to give it a 70 to 30% chance that we're actually here, and we have a dead cat bounce on the way. Don won't like that because he'll be very bearish and be expecting this for the 6 months following. That's not great, but that's where I think we are. And honestly, for me, it's the easier trade now because all I care about is synthetics going to $15.
I like it. I would say it's 60-40 that the first one, like the one on the left side, that we're in that one instead of the other one. But
so we're just taking opposite sides of similar odds.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that the Bitcoin chart by itself, I agree with you. Like it looks more like it's here. The broader sentiment, I feel like we've already gone through this and this bounce as well. And like we're more closer to here. That's what I feel.
Yeah, I mean, the sentiment stuff is really interesting. I mean, it needs to be talked about because like the sentiment is very, very different nowadays. Like I've seen actually like a lot of bearishness on Twitter, a lot of bearishness in like my DMs under my stuff, in comparison to back in 18 where that was just not a thing. And I've been thinking about like why that is the case, and either which is like add support and people are being bearish and it's gonna go up. Or it's just that given we have like so many new entrants that are just not on Twitter, they're everywhere but on Twitter, might just be that like the new people.
Doge. They're holding Doge.
Yeah, they're holding Doge, they're holding Shiba, and they're not on Twitter and they're not going to listen to me. And everyone that's in this for like the last few years kind of has been getting trained to see like what everyone else on Twitter sees. So I don't know.
Calling Twitter the smart money.
I mean, they were the dumb money on the way up, right? I mean, Shiba and Doge were the plays. But I think on the way down, it's probably likely that Twitter is going to outperform like TikTok and all those kind of traders.
I think both can be true per what we talked about earlier. That's my opinion. I think that I think Bitcoin could be bottoming and Doge could be topping, right? You still put the pain on the TikTokers and everything. And
oh, I like that. I love that. Give me that. I don't even mind if I don't get filled below 30. If I get that, I'm fine.
I can picture in my head how this Bitcoin chart turns very constructive, and all it takes is one weekly. Whereas I think, look at those wicks, man, on your chart. Like this thing is tried to push down, and someone's down there buying those, right? It doesn't mean it can't do exactly what you talked about. Go to 24K, go to 20K. I don't know, man. I remember there was obviously 6K, then we went to 3K, and that was almost like a relief, right? It's like, oh, finally, God, this thing just broke out. Get down there, go bottom, be done. But then you got to 3K, and people were like, now it's 1,600. You know, we're going to 1,600, and they just begged for more and more and more. I don't see it. I think there's demand for Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin has a huge PR problem, but crypto is here to stay. And if crypto is here to stay, this doesn't make sense to me to be done yet.
Good ending words, I think.
I still think BNB ETH is the best trade to make short side.
Dump BNB ETH, dump Doge BTC.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. I've actually been contacted by a few funds that have asked me my opinion on that exact trade. I think there's a bunch of people like on the institutional side and that are exactly
they have the most
trade.
Regulatory pressure as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Thanks everybody for being here with us. We will talk to you next time. Go to weeklyopen.com/blockfolio. Make a trade if you hadn't done it before. You need to do it. It's easy. You go directly from one asset to the other. You can dump your BNB. I think do they have BNB? It depends on if you're in the international version, I think.
I don't think they do. I don't think they do.
I think they do on the international version, not the American one. Anyway, depends on where you're from. Nevertheless, you can see what's available for trade. If it's there, you can do it for no fees. You can track your portfolio at the bare minimum while you're at it. Connect your bank, all that good stuff. Do it at weeklyopen.com/blockfolio. Thanks for them being our partner. We'll catch y'all next time.